Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if y'all have read 6th Grade Superstar by Brian Lynch yet, but yo!
That's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt.
What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. L. John Hubbard, a.k.a. Nate 3.0, back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's episode, it's a holiday jamboree and the return of our pals, the brothers Ferris. That's right, James and DX are back to help us break down our favorite holiday TV episodes and specials. And it's always a heck of a lot of fun to get together with my homies and chat about anything. And I don't want to delay that, but I do need to get some things out of the way. All right. www.yothat'smyjawn.com. That is the best way to find all things Yo, That's My Jawn. Links to the webpage, the socials, my guest appearances on other pods, merchandise, the mailing list, all of it. Go check that out. You know, I said socials. Those are at Yo, That's My Jawn on all of them. Give it a follow. But most importantly, what I need to do is call attention to two things. First, if you are listening to this in time, tomorrow, Tuesday, December 12th at 8 p.m., I am guesting on the Your Next Favorite Band live stream alongside our pal Dan Drago of the 25 O'Clock podcast to break down WXPN's 885 Greatest Songs by Women Countdown. It's been an amazing showcase and tribute to the brilliant work of female artists, and I have been enjoying hearing all of my favorites and finding some new ones that maybe I wasn't as familiar with. And you can watch that stream live on the Your Next Favorite Band YouTube channel at Next Fave Band. That's NEXTFAVBAND. And if you miss it live, no fear, you can still catch the video on their channel. That's one. Two, make sure to clear your schedule because Saturday, December 23rd at 8 p.m., it is time for 'Twas the Jawn Before Christmas 4. Join me for my yearly ukulele sing-along live stream. Come celebrate the holidays with me. I'm going to have some guests, and I am super excited for it. We should be on Facebook, YouTube, all that. So check the socials and come be merry. And if you can't see that live, same thing, no need for the tears. It will be available on our YouTube channel after as well. That's at Yo, That's My Jawn on YouTube. And guess what, guys? The audio is also going to be available on this very feed Christmas Day. So you can put it on while you eat your figgy pudding. All right, there, we're good. Those are the updates. I'm going to spare you an ad this week so that we can get right to it. My guests today need no introduction because they are the returning champs of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. So it is my honor to welcome to the show my friends DX and James, the brothers Ferris. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today again by the great brothers Ferris, James, and DX. Guys, thank you for joining me on Yo, That's My Jawn.
Thank you for having us. If I may set the scene, we three old dear friends are gathered together. It is Christmas Eve. We are snowbound at a remote mountain chalet, seated around a roaring fireplace, and we decided to talk about Christmas.
That's
on
right.
3 different laptops.
Oddly, still in the same room.
That's the modern world. We're sitting together in a room staring into our own devices.
That's right. That's
Christmas
right.
2023.
Gentlemen, we have assembled yet again to talk Christmas, and again, I would there is no one else in this world I would rather talk Christmas festivities with than you two. But before we get into what we've decided to talk about this year, which is our favorite Christmas television episodes or specials. Let me just ask, are there any new Christmas songs that you guys have heard that have kind of jumped out at you since last we spoke?
I mean, new to me or new in general?
That works. New to you works.
I mean, I don't want to spoil the my Ferris Christmas Mix 2023, but there are some new ones on there. My strategy this year was I Shazammed a bunch of stuff and then made a big playlist as the year went by. And I think I have some winners on there.
I like it. I like it.
Nice. I have a couple, as you said, I not necessarily brand new, but some things that I just discovered. I just stumbled across a nice one. Spotify really has me nailed. The algorithm knows what I like, and it's right. I just found an album called Under the Mistletoe from 2009 by a group called The Good Lovelies. And it's almost a 1940s style. I think it's a trio of women, real straightforward, singing along together, harmonizing. And they do some really good songs. There are a couple tunes on it that I never heard before. One's called Maybe This Time. One is called Another Year to Wait. One is called I'd Like You for Christmas. Very good stuff. So Under the Mistletoe, The Good Lovelies, good album. It's straightforward. It's appropriate for family listening. I know it's often a challenge for me to come up with something that is appropriate for the family, but there's that.
And one of my finds this year is from the cinematic masterpiece Fred Claus, which shows you can find even diamonds in the rough.
Yeah. It's awesome. My obviously, I'm obsessed with the Philly Christmas, the Eagles' second release. This year, they actually did a Christmas special for it, like a 9-minute YouTube video, and it's pretty great. But
you just like it because you're from Philly.
Well, yeah, that's a big part of it. But
hey, I'll give you another one on the opposite side of the spectrum. The recording artist known as Rudy Casoni, Casoni, has an album called Snowballs, SNO, I believe. Rudy Casoni in a previous career was known as the singer named, or the actor singer named Toby Huss, who you will recognize as the MTV lounge singer from the 90s, who would do lounge versions of like Pearl Jam's Jeremy and Cypress Hill's Insane in the Brain. Insane in the membrane. Insane. Come on, give me some help here. Damn you, bourbon. He has a very nice R-rated Christmas album, Snowballs. And if you need something a little bit more challenging, that's it. Don't play with the kids.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like this year a lot of people have been cutting Christmas songs too that I haven't even dug into yet because we're recording this on December 3rd, and I next week starts like my hell at work, and that's usually when I kind of dig into the Christmas spirit to keep me.
You work now?
Yeah, well, from time to time. but that's kind of what drives me at work. That's when I'm digging in. I haven't even thought about like a lot of the guests I've had this past year had Christmas songs, so it looks like I'm going to have another Christmas Jawn's volume full of Christmas songs, and then all the way leading up to December 23rd, which is the next "Twas the Jawn Before Christmas 4" Christmas live stream ukulele sing along. So
one of the things I kind of keep an eye on every year is the UK race for the #1 Christmas single, which over there is a big deal. Over here, unless you pay attention, you have no idea. But with the late breaking development of the death of Shane MacGowan, I'm predicting
R.I.P.
Fairy Tale New York UK Christmas #1 this year. You heard it here first.
It better be. It better be. I was thinking back to our conversation last year, and honestly, that's probably my favorite Christmas song of all time. As much as I
it's the best Christmas song of all time.
It really is. I mean, it's now the second because Fairy Tale of Philadelphia, pretty great.
So Nate, why do you have us here today? What are we going to talk about?
We are here to talk
if I may, before we get rolling, I would like to share with everybody a very quick, short, special Christmas story, kind of set the mood.
Do it.
Ooh, do it.
Well, James has heard this before. Everybody knows about Santa Claus, right? How he visits from house to house and you leave out cookies for him and some milk. Eventually, at some point in the night, Santa Claus has to go, if you know what I mean. So what a lot of people don't know is that if Santa Claus poops at your house, you get extra presents. In fact, there's a little song about it, and it goes like this. Just leave out some cookies and a cup of coffee too, and you'll get more presents when Santa poops by you. So milk is good, milk is traditional, but if you leave out some coffee, Santa Claus might drop a Christmas deuce at your house. More presents for you.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Now you know.
That's the perfect kickoff to our conversation about our favorite television episodes and specials centered around Christmas. We've kind of been kicking around this idea for a little, almost a month now, and I can't tell you how many times I've changed my list, and then have gone, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot, and then like cross things out and move things around. But let's just kind of, before we jump in, get into the conversation of what do you want out of a Christmas special? James, we'll start with you.
Well, I went back and listened to last year's podcast where we talked about Christmas music. And we all had some shifting, but still pretty stringent criteria about what we considered to be good Christmas music. So that got me thinking, do we hold Christmas TV up to the same standards?
Me personally, it only came about after looking at my list as a whole and trying to step back, is I have 5 things that kind of very strongly play into the idea of found family. It's like the not necessarily the family stories, like A Christmas Story or something like that, which of course not television, but whatever. But kind of a group of people who are spending that time together, that have chosen to spend that time together. It wasn't by design, but it seems to be what draws me at Christmas time.
Last year on that episode, which if you didn't listen to, go back. I think it's a good library piece. We identified a lot of the elements of traditional Christmas material. There are different lists out there, but basically out of 7 elements that people always come up with for what constitutes a Christmas movie, what's a Christmas song, what should be there. There are 5 or 7 that come up in list after list. This year, I focused in on 5 different things when I was looking at my different specials. And one of those was, as Nate said, found family. Found family. And James alluded to that earlier. The basic setup of being away from home for Christmas and finding yourself with some different people that maybe you didn't plan on being with, but who all pitch in together and make it a nice day. You're sitting at home on the piano, there's a knock on the door, and it's David Bowie or Bing Crosby, So found family, I like a lot. I look at mine, romance is in the picture. I mean, there's an entire genre of Christmas TV movies where romance factors into it. Santa Claus, different ways. We'll talk about how that plays out, but there's a reference to him. Music is important. Music is something that sets the season apart. There's music that most of us only listen to during Christmas, and there's that. And then the idea of Christmas in the background. We're all doing our thing, but Christmas is happening behind us as we speak.
When I was compiling my list and going through all these Christmas episodes, I found the big, maybe not the common denominator between them, but what made up my list, what dictated my list, was primarily nostalgia. Because I think, we draw upon, well, this is what we're going to find out. I at least drew upon a lot of the Christmas episodes and specials of my youth. And what I found is they didn't always quite match up to my adult expectations. They were perhaps not as good as I remember. Fraggle Rock, I am looking at you. But maybe that's something we'll discuss a little bit later.
I'm wondering, I'm always excited when we do these to see if there's any overlap because we are three guys who share a sensibility. So
should we get the Bill Murray Christmas special out of the way now, or should we save it for the final 45 minutes?
If I can, I predict there will be at least one episode that all three of us will share. But again, let's see if we get there.
Yeah.
2024 and Nate Christmas special coming up.
And
that's my Jawn.
I will say, confusingly, I still have not seen the Bill Murray Christmas special, so it's not on my list.
Why are we even here?
Oh, I forgot. You don't like Christmas.
I know.
Pause the recording.
You're a mean one. Mr.
Pause the recording, go watch it, come back in 45 minutes.
Is that short too? Now there's no excuse.
It's not
this year I'll watch it. All right. Well, let's before we again jump into the list. Anything that did not make your cut that you wish you were struggling with. We'll just do one each.
I hate to be a proponent of cancel culture, but Louis C.K. used to be my guy, and he was my guy because he does excellent work, but he presented himself as a certain kind of person, and
he sure did present himself.
It was
here all week, folks.
And he turned out to be not that guy. So I used to love his Christmas episode where he is a dad and he's trying to put together toys for the kids and make everything right and make it a good Christmas for his family. And it drives him fucking crazy. Can we curse? I'm sorry about that.
Of course you can.
Yeah, so it drives him crazy. And as a father, I found a lot of truth in that. But it's something about his heel turn has left a bad taste in my mouth, and there's not that. Another one, I'll send you a link to this. I don't think it counts, although I thought about it. I put together my very own homemade Amanda Shires Christmas special of her performing a lot of Christmas songs in different settings. Some in her room by herself. Some all dressed up and ready to go to the Christmas ball. Some in a room just playing, sometimes playing in a dressing room with friends. And it's really magical stuff. To me, it's about 10 or so Amanda Shires songs, most of them Christmas songs, that to me feels like a Johnny Cash Christmas special. So I didn't think it was quite proper to plug them for my own. Although I just did that. But check out the show notes. We'll send you a link to those. It's good. If you don't have the Amanda Shires Christmas album, treat yourself. It's wonderful stuff. Different material. It's not Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
For me, it was Fraggle Rock. Like I mentioned, the maybe classic episode, maybe not classic episode, Bells of Fraggle Rock. Of course, they don't talk about Christmas, but it is the holiday-themed episode. Nothing wrong with it. Doesn't really capture any magic, though. Again, just goes back to one of those things that I remembered fondly as a kid, but watching as an adult just did not do much for me.
Oh, you don't like Fraggle Rock?
Listen, you're talking to Mr. Fraggle Rock right here.
I always get bummed out when things don't, especially if I'm like, I hadn't seen it in a while and I'm showing it to somebody else, like, you're going to see the greatest thing ever. And then you show it and you're like, oh, I don't remember it not being cool. Like, but no,
I understand. I'm very much. I haven't watched any of the new Fraggle Rocks for exactly that reason. I'm afraid to touch that third rail. Like, what if it's not as good as I remember? What if it won't be as good?
It is surprisingly decent.
Well, it's time to revisit. My one that didn't make it that kind of really hurt to cut was Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas from Community, which is the stop motion animated episode of Community. It's absolutely brilliant, but it just you could only pick 5, and that was number 6.
We'll talk about Community more.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
That was one of the ones that I'm sure there's going to be some overlap. All right, well, let's get started and we'll go around the horn. These are our favorite Christmas television episodes and specials. James, kick it off.
All right, my number 5 top Christmas episode of TV ever is The Real Ghostbusters from 1986, season 1, episode 13. Xmas Marks the Spot. So in this episode, while driving through a snowstorm on their way back from a job in upstate New York, the Ghostbusters inadvertently fall through a wormhole in time and space that is never fully explained, but find themselves roaming the streets of a city that suspiciously resembles Victorian London. Suddenly, they hear a man's cries from an open window, and upon rushing in, discover him being tormented by 3 different spirits. Being the Ghostbusters, they do what they do and capture the spirits, for which they are paid the miserly sum of only 1 shilling. Upon returning to their own time, they discovered the 3 ghosts were actually the spirits of Christmas, and the man was actually Ebenezer Scrooge, and that Christmas is now universally reviled because of his now classic novel, A Christmas Humbug. Jawn has to travel into the containment unit to rescue the spirits of Christmas, while Ray, Venkman, and Winston go back through the wormhole to stop Scrooge from writing his book. It's a neat original take on the Christmas Carol trope, with some surprisingly deep character takes for an animated show from the 80s. For instance, Venkman hates Christmas because his father was never around at that time of year. But, it still leans into the comedy as you'd expect. That said, it doesn't go much deeper than the overall concept, which is a shame because you kind of feel like with that idea, what if A Christmas Carol never happened? What would that mean to the modern day interpretation of Christmas? What would Christmas look like now? But, they were only working with 24 minutes of screen time. So they worked with what they had. So that's it. That's my number 5.
That is awesome. I have never seen that, and it just sounds.
I've never seen that either. That is deep.
It sounds awesome
on YouTube.
We'll have links in the show notes to if these are available on YouTube, or even if they're available on streaming. Maybe I'll find a way to link the streams or whatnot. But
also written by a cat named J. Michael Straczynski, who later went on to do some respected runs in Marvel Comics. So there you go.
Hell yeah! Also a writer on Battlestar, right?
Real? Oh, I don't know.
I think so. I think he was. I might have made that up, or maybe it was one of the other ones. Some nerd will come from my head. It's fine. I got to stop speaking freely.
Well, actually, he wrote an episode of Caprica.
Yeah. Exactly. No, that's incredible. The Real Ghostbusters is something that I feel like it needs a resurgence because there's a lot of stuff. But have you seen the trailer for the second of the Ghostbusters reboot?
Yeah, it didn't grab me. I think Afterlife is maybe better than it has a right to be, but does not approach the classic status of the first movie. That said, probably better than the second movie. So, my younger son is really into Ghostbusters, so we'll probably end up seeing it in the theaters.
Awesome. Yeah, I still haven't seen Afterlife. It's I don't watch anything. What am I spending my time doing? Oh, this.
It's
right.
got a surprisingly poignant end to it.
Yeah. Cool. I dig it.
Well, my lesson that I relearn every year is that you can either make your own stuff, Nate, or you can watch everybody else's stuff. And as our late great father said, nobody's work is more important than your own.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Words
and
to live by.
That's the true meaning of Christmas. No, that's not the true meaning of Christmas.
That's not it. That's not what Scrooge learned in A Christmas Carol or in A Christmas Humbug.
Well, my favorite. I forget if I mentioned this last year. My favorite Scrooge is after Bill Murray, your boy. My favorite Scrooge is George C. Scott in Scrooge. And what I like about his portrayal of Scrooge is that, a lot like Bill Murray, he enjoys being Scrooged. In most of the Scrooged, it's just the passion of the Scrooge. He's an old guy, he's miserable, and he's sad. But George Scott is a wealthy, miserly prick, and he enjoys it. You can tell he thinks things are funny. He has a glow in his eye when he says the mean things he does. So he is the guy that appreciates work and really makes Christmas all about his true labor. He doesn't even take a day off for Christmas.
Supposedly, the very first special or piece of art that used the Christmas Carol trope on pre-existing characters was the Mr. Magoo Christmas special.
Interesting.
Good note.
The Mr. Magoo Christmas special actually makes an appearance in my number 5. So I'm going to jump in here because that is the most brilliant segue I've heard accidental in my life. And mine is a December 22nd, 1994 episode of a little show called My So-Called Life. And it's the episode 15, So-Called Angels. In the episode, it opens very darkly with Ricky spewing blood on the pavement, having just gotten kicked out of his house and beaten up by his father. And we are introduced to this character played by Juliana Hatfield, who is playing guitar and keeps making appearances throughout the episode. Claire Danes' character of Angela has never really witnessed what Ricky goes through constantly, and is very preoccupied trying to help her friend, tries to feed him, but of course Patty and Graham have an issue with this and kind of scare him off. He goes, and then Angela finds this warehouse full of homeless kids where Jordan had taken Ricky so they had a place to stay. Of course, our friend Juliana Hatfield is there with her ratty shoes, and Claire Danes gives her new boots, and it's a Christmas miracle. And then eventually, Patty and Graham, mostly Patty, feels like she has to call the cops because she's one of the worst characters in the history of television. No disrespect to Bess Armstrong, who played her. So they, break the place up, and Ricky ends up at church, and we find out that Juliana Hatfield has been dead and is an angel. And it's the most weirdest turn at the end of an episode ever. Like, how did you die? I froze to death. It was like, wait, what? She gave her her boots. How is she dead? I don't understand any of this. But it's just a magical episode. It's very after school special on a show that wasn't very after school special. But for some reason, it has always stuck with me. And I think 98% of that is Make It Home by Juliana Hatfield. It's just a beautiful song, and it brings me back. And then, of course, the B plot, Brian Krakow gets left home at Christmas time, even though he's Jewish, but he is super lonely and calls a teen helpline and gets Rayanne Graff as the agent to help him, who, instead of helping him, performs phone sex for him. So, all around great episode. And yeah, it's really top of mind because I've been guesting on my pal's single season record podcast, which is a show that just kind of reviews a series of shows that only lasted one season, and it's a rewatch pod. And I've been on a few times for My So-Called Life, and I've been revisiting the show. And, we talked about going back to things from our childhood that doesn't stand the test of time. My So-Called Life not only stands the test of time, it might be better now than I remember it when I was a kid, and for completely different reasons. But So-Called Angels, episode 15 of My So-Called Life, that is my number 5 Christmas special.
And let me take a moment and say some of the biggest Christmas people I know are Jewish, so it's bigger than Christmas.
And they write the best Christmas music, too.
So, Nate, that was actually my number 2 episode.
Holy shit.
On my list. And the episode I predicted we might have some overlap with. But just to add to what you're saying, yeah, like very dark episode. The implication, and I don't think they ever directly say this, is that Ricky got beaten up by his dad and kicked out of the house for being gay.
Yeah.
And so it just revolves around that. And it's an episode about really the limits of friendship and the limits of parenting. You bring up Patty and Graham, the adult characters from the show, and they're trying to do what they think is the right thing, and they discover very quickly that's not the right thing, and that actually makes things worse. And I found this was an episode I watched when it first came on the air, and I really liked it. And then I tried watching it maybe 10 or 12 years ago and didn't do much for me. And then I rewatched it for this podcast, and it really grabbed me again. And going to what you were saying, I think that the show has aged incredibly well. I think depending on where you are at a certain period of your life, you can approach it from a couple different angles. If you're a teenager, you kind of see it from Angela's perspective. But as you get a little bit older, maybe you see it from the adult perspective as well.
Or if 25 years later, you are, in fact, the Pittsburgh dad who enjoys the Grateful Dead.
There you go. There you go. So, yeah, I mean, Dave, you said this to me many, many years ago. My So-Called Life is probably the best representation of being a teenager ever. That said, you do have to make an allowance for the dramatic things they introduce there, because you don't just want to do 16 episodes of the character sitting around on a Saturday night with nothing to do.
Definitely. Hey, I wanted to ask you guys, though, on this My So-Called Life topic, have you ever witnessed a show based in Pittsburgh that is so not Pittsburgh in your life? Like, it's like they every once in a while will make a reference, and I'm like, oh, that's right, this is supposed to be Pittsburgh? Like,
Most of them. There's Daisy Jones in the Six. The characters are allegedly from Pittsburgh.
There's
it's a show that
where they're from Pittsburgh, where they show Pittsburgh, and it is very much not Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. A brand new one. Netflix has a movie called The Feast of the Seven Fishes just came out. That is very watchable. It's the kind of movie that people say, oh, they don't make movies like this anymore. It's a small, low-budget indie drama. It is set in the Pittsburgh area, and it is, as far as I can recall, it is the first Pittsburgh area-based fiction that uses the word yins in it, which is yins is Pittsburghese for y'all or yiz for you Philly people. And they don't say it quite right. It comes out as yens, but it's in there at least twice. So it's a very watchable movie, very good one. If you're looking for something new, you're on Netflix. Feast of the Seven Fishes, very Italian.
I dig it. So what's your 5? What do you got there?
My number 5 is the episode Christmas Who, which is episode 8 from season 2 from the year 2000 of SpongeBob SquarePants. Christmas Who. Sandy, the squirrel who is from Texas, who has chosen to relocate under the sea, tells all her undersea friends about the wonders of Christmas and Santa. As you might imagine, SpongeBob warms up to the idea. He becomes the evangelist for Santa, and next thing you know, the whole undersea world has gone nuts for the idea of Santa. And it features, for my money, one of the great modern Christmas songs, The Very First Christmas. Do you know this one?
I don't.
Well, we gotta link that. We gotta YouTube that. The Very First Christmas. So it's about, well, I don't want to spoil it, but maybe SpongeBob brings Santa under the sea, maybe not.
That's awesome. Yeah, I will forever be amazed and full of wonder that Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob, that I only ever knew him growing up from the Bobcat film Shakes the Clown. So like the fact that he has this entire life in children's television absolutely blows my mind. But like that's like most great children's people have that thing in their past that scratches the head. What year did you say that was from?
2000.
Okay, so
what a run that show has had, man. And there are a couple other SpongeBob Christmas Johns. Those are fine, but this is the one.
I definitely got to check it out. I haven't seen it. James, have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh,
which having 2 little kids at SpongeBob age is probably inexcusable.
That's awesome. Yeah, the SpongeBob does really good music too, so I'm really interested to hear the First Christmas. James, number 4.
Number 4. My number 4 is The Bear, season 2, episode 6, Fishes. So this is not an episode you watch with the kids to teach them the true meaning of Christmas.
But in a way, isn't it?
What was that?
But in a way, isn't it? It's not about what Christmas should be. It's about what Christmas is.
You are not wrong with that. So this episode is set approximately 5 years before the main narrative of the series And we arrive at the Barazano family household on Christmas Eve for their annual holiday dinner. All the regular characters, Carmi, Sugar, Richie, are there, along with Mikey, who is the deceased brother, who is not in the regular show, played by John Barenthal. He is not yet dead. But it is an absolute horror show of what happens when you put all these family members, each with their own hang-ups and pathos, together in the traditional holiday pressure cooker. Jamie Lee Curtis appears as the absolutely terrifying Donna, the narcissistic and emotionally unhinged matriarch of the family, whose every action dictates the behavior of every other character, whether it's just by acquiescing to her or by steering clear of her. But there's also some very beautiful character work by Ebon Moss-Bachrach as Richie, who gives his seemingly one-note character some real depth, as well as an appearance by John Mulaney, who gives some more surprisingly character work you wouldn't think he was capable of as he attempts to de-escalate a situation between Mikey and Bob Odenkirk's Uncle Lee. Listen. Family will do things to each other they would never do to complete strangers, and this is Exhibit A.
It's awesome. Another confession. I still have not watched The Bear. I'm out of it, my friends.
Nate doesn't like popular culture.
Pause the recording for 12 hours and come back, and then we'll talk about it.
They're short episodes too, right? Isn't that true?
Yeah, they range between typically 30 to 40 minutes, but I think this one comes in at almost an hour.
Okay.
And it is the most erratic, in a good way, hyperactive hour of holiday viewing you will ever have the displeasure of watching. It is, again, horrifying.
I should have had that on the list. And it's interesting how it falls in the run order, in that the next episode, Richie has an episode with a lot of big growth for him. So the way that it plays, it's not for nothing. Like, everybody sort of gets a feel for Christmas, and things change a little bit the next episode. And it's not part of the overall arc, but it is.
My wife hates Richie with a passion, and I think that might even extend to the actor playing him itself. But I made her sit down.
The Andor arc that he is in does show that he's not a trustworthy character.
True. But I made her sit down and watch this Christmas episode. And by the end of Richie's big scene, she was in tears. So that gives you an idea of the depth that the actor brings to Richie's character in this. And if you are a parent, again, that will add some extra oomph to it. If you are not in tears by the end of that episode or that sequence, then I don't want to be your friend.
As a outsider looking in, how many Wilco songs are in this episode?
8 to 10.
It's great. It's absolutely great. My number 4 is much maligned. It's hard to find. It's not hard to find anymore, but for a very long time, it was very hard to find. As a matter of fact, I probably didn't see it until a good 20 years after its release. And it is, as I said, the much maligned 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special. And look, I understand how bad it is, because it is, and it's a chore to get through. But it is so comforting and so warm to me. Like, it's one of the most fun watches for about the first third. And then it becomes a lesson in torture and punishment. If you're not familiar, it tells the story of Chewbacca just trying to get home for Life Day. And Life Day is like kind of a Christmas proxy here. There's a Imperial blockade causing an issue with Han and Chewie getting back home to Kashyyyk for Life Day, where
they planted that blockade seed early.
They really did. And Kashyyyk also, this was a canonical name of Chewbacca's home planet, which comes from this special. So it's not like they threw everything out about this. But the
Boba
reason...
Fett.
Boba Fett also in here. But the reason he's trying to get home is because he's trying to get home to his family, including his wife and his child and his father-in-law. Okay, now the madness of this is, if you think about every single episode or film of Star Wars that Chewbacca has been in, and you realize that at home he has a wife and kid, it just peppers everything so much more. Like,
that's bonkers. I mean, Chewbacca is the loyal guy. He's the friend you want. You know, he's the absolute rock of that scene. And as it turns out, he's an absentee father.
He's a deadbeat dad.
He never mentions his family either. He never talks about them once.
Never mentions them at all. Poor Lumpy. But there's so much madness in this. Like, Diane Carroll sings this song while the grandfather watches her on like this video screen, and it's essentially that she's his fantasy, and it's absolutely insane. Jefferson Starship's in here with Marty Ballin's last appearance for a great deal of time performing. B. Arthur, Art Carney, and as we said, like, the one thing that everybody really takes away from this is the Faithful Wookiee, which is the cartoon that introduces Boba Fett to the Star Wars universe. And the cartoon was done by Nelvana Limited, who did the Ewoks cartoon and the Droids cartoon. So
a lot of great material.
Really great stuff. Speaking of, if you haven't rewatched any of the Droids cartoon, it's also absolutely insane and definitely worth a rewatch. The Ewoks, not so much, but Droids definitely.
Nate, as you said, this was like a thing of legend for years because it was never made commercially available. And when I went to finally watch it, I expected, like, okay, it can't be as terrible as everybody says it is. And it truly is. I mean, it not to take away from your enjoyment of it, but my experience from it was, it's not even ironically bad enough to be good. I mean, it is just bad. I've never made my way through the entire thing.
It's really bad. Like, I can't downplay that. It is really bad. But there's certain things that I love beyond belief. Like, there's one part where they just kind of call Luke Skywalker to see if he's seen Chewbacca. And he kind of flirts with Chewbacca's wife. And he's like, come on, Mala, give me a smile. There it is, girl. Like, it's just bizarre,
That's
man.
Why Chewie never goes home.
There's also, a very coked out Carrie Fisher throughout the entire thing, who actually sings a song at the end to the theme of Star Wars. Like...
And can we talk about Luke Skywalker's eye makeup during the whole thing?
Yes. He's clearly made up. Just absolutely ridiculous. There is one thing I do want to point out, and this is why I implore people to at least find clips of it to watch, and that is Harrison Ford is as good in this as Han Solo as he is in everything else. And the only thing that makes me realize is that Harrison Ford thought every single film that he was in was as stupid and bullshit as this thing is, and he's giving just as much effort as he did then. It's absolutely crazy. So that's my 4. That's the Star Wars holiday special. Dave, what do you got?
From 2006, Xmas special, the Dope and Liquor edition, by the indie media long-running sensation, the Trailer Park Boys. This is one of those that both skews the hell out of Christmas and reinforces the value and feeling of Christmas. This one-off Christmas special, of course, there's so much more to Trailer Park Boys, but in this Christmas special, which is it's an hour, give or take, it's available on Netflix. Ricky gets out of jail for Christmas. Julian is being Scrooge. He and his crew of ne'er-do-wells, they're going to the mall. They're breaking into cars. They're stealing Christmas presents, and they're using their ill-gotten gains to fund a very corrupt trailer park decoration contest in the trailer park. And it's a prequel, so you get to see some of the other characters in action before they were quite the characters we know. J-Rock is still Jason at this point, the trailer park stoner, and he's thinking about trying marijuana, but he's heard it's a pretty hardcore drug, and he's hesitant to get involved with it. for good reason, as time will show. And for my money, out of so many memorable things on this, you have a couple good monologues. I think a good Christmas special has a good monologue. It's irreverent, it's blasphemous, but it's up there dramatically with Linus's Christmas monologue. So there's that. But it feels like a dark winter night around Christmas, and they didn't film it during Christmas, so they pulled off a small Christmas miracle by making it feel as authentic as it does. And I think even if you don't know the characters, because it is something of a prequel, you can just sit down and watch it. So Trailer Park Boys, they have a few other Christmas specials also, but Xmas Special, the Dope and Liquor Edition, good stuff. Very funny, very irreverent, oddly poignant, good music too.
You know, I've never seen an episode of Trailer Park Boys. But
in many ways, if you see one, you've seen them all. So make this the one.
But, you know, maybe this is a good place to talk about, you know, growing up when there were only 3 or 4 channels on TV, there was really a collectivism in the Christmas specials that we saw when we were kids, because there would only be like 2 or 3 every year. And now that there are umpteen numbers of networks across cable and broadcast, now every show has them, and it's really hard to get a hold on every Christmas episode of every show. And in doing research on this, I think it was CSI I looked up. They have like 17 separate Christmas episodes of CSI.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, there is no longer that shared sense of, you know, a Charlie Brown Christmas or a Grinch that comes on once a year that everybody knows.
And it's hard to keep up. I mean, I'm looking down my list. One is from 2000, one's from 2006. The most recent ones are from 2015. So maybe they're still doing good stuff out there. How do you keep up? I don't know.
It goes back to my I've been having this long conversation on the show that there's just too much content. We like that maybe people have heard me say this a lot, but that maybe gatekeepers aren't bad. It's just that we had bad gatekeepers. And that, you know, that's part of the problem. But like you said, like, you know, the shared experience of Christmas is, I think that's why I, from being in the Philly area, why I'm drawn so much to the Philly special Christmas, because it's one of the first things in a very long time that, everyone kind of is experiencing at the same time. Because we don't have those kind of water cooler events much anymore. So it like you said, it's really hard to break through with something strong and Christmassy, you know? When we all want to be together, we're all apart. See how deep that was?
I heard an interview with Rob Zombie once where he was talking about when he was a kid, Planet of the Apes was going to air on TV. And for 2 weeks, that's all anybody talked about. Planet of the Apes is going to be on TV. Planet of the Apes is going to be on TV. And everybody structured their whole day around watching Planet of the Apes on that one occasion. And you don't get that anymore because everything is everywhere all at once now.
Yeah, which was a great movie. But to that point, I got an email from a friend of mine who I actually need to email back that we grew up together. And it was one of those like touching base, haven't talked in you know, decades or whatnot. And he was like, you know, one of my greatest memories of childhood was all of us piling into your house the first time that Star Wars aired on cable, because you were the only house on the block that had cable. And like, it's true. Like that concept of like, you have a time and date, and if you missed it, you missed it. Like, you know, it made things really magical, man. And I kind of miss that. What was that? That was number 4. We're at number 3. James, go for it.
All right. My number 3 is season 2, episode 4 of Man Seeks Woman, Tinsel. So it's kind of a bottle episode. You never see the regular star Jay Baruchel or his character Josh Greenberg. Instead, this episode revolves around his sister Liz, played by Britt Lower, who is having an affair with Santa Claus. Santa tells Liz that his marriage to Mrs. Claus is only a working relationship. They sleep in separate beds, and all they do is run a holiday together, which Liz buys until she's confronted by Santa's wife, Vicky, when she comes to Liz's office. When Liz convinces Santa to move in with her, Santa loses all sense of purpose and his life falls apart. Again, not one you watch with the kids. There's some bad words, there's some adult situations, but it's also hilarious. It has some great one-liners, and it manages to wrap the whole thing up with a good dose of Christmas spirit at the end.
I feel like they made that show specifically for us. Like, I think they were thinking, what would Dave and James's friend Nate, that guy has good taste. What would they think is really funny? Let's do that every week.
Nate, are you familiar with Man Seeking Woman?
I know the show, but I've not dug in. It missed me, and I don't know why. I think it might have been what year did you say that was?
2000? That was 2016, and there's 3 seasons total.
It was around the time I was moving, so that was I missed a lot of stuff from that year. Oddly enough,
did you watch Carnival, Nate?
I did. I love that show. It? I did, sadly.
Well, this is the show for you. I don't want to spoil it beyond that, but
okay, yeah, I loved that show. And did you ever dig into what would have become of the show if they continued on? It's some juicy stuff in there.
Yes, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll make
Carnival
an episode.
Special.
We'll do an episode about that. Did they have a Christmas special? Because I can make it. But
Nate, your number 3.
My number 3, this might be an overlap because I heard reference to something along those lines. I had mentioned that Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas did not make the list, and that's mostly because my number 3 is the community episode Regional Holiday Music, Season 3, Episode 10. For anyone familiar with the show Community, this is the Regionals episode, the Glee spoof. Taran Killam is the Glee captain, and they have lost their a cappella group to a bus accident. They all died, and so he is trying to recruit our study hall group of Greendale cast members to be a part of the Glee Club. And one by one, they start falling in hilarious ways of kind of brainwashing and whatnot, starting with Abed, and then Abed brings in Troy, using what is one of my favorite Christmas songs of all time, Christmas Infiltration, which is all about how Troy, who is a a Jehovah's Witness, how he can enjoy Christmas as a spy for the witnesses. You got an awesome song where Chevy Chase falls, Baby Boomer Santa. And then a very special song to me, which is Alison Brie's Annie singing "Teach Me How to Understand Christmas," which ends with the hilarious line "Boopy doopy doop boop sex." So that is my number 3. Everybody, by the way, is saved by Britta, who cannot sing, and it's just a fun episode, and I think it works well as its own solo without watching the rest of the show. Like, it's just a lot of fun.
It is a true tour de force. It's my number 1. Spoilers, but we might as well give it its flowers here. It's my number 1. It is the only episode of TV that I have, knowing how foolish it was, I did it anyway. I applauded at the end of the episode, sitting home alone in my living room watching the TV. I applauded at it. It was that good. I mean, it has original Christmas songs. It has parodies, it has references, it has style parodies. The song you talked about, Annie's song with Jeff, is a brilliant parody of the infantile, sexy Christmas woman song like Santa Baby, and it gets much worse over the years. It's a miracle. I mean, Community for a couple of years, it seemed like its major point of existing, and it's my favorite show, but it seemed like its major thesis just existed to make fun of Glee and skewer Glee. And it does that beautifully. I mean, it contains the line, glee literally means glee.
Yeah.
So many good performances by so many people. It's about found family, as you said. It's about how you can make Christmas together. And then it has that magical realism element where at the beginning, when the piano starts playing by itself, it just takes you to a whole nother world. And I love the community Christmas specials. There's a piece going around this week that talks on the internet that talks about how big media companies hate the things that they own and just mistreat them terribly. And I think that is what NBC did with Community. I mean, early on, they had a great Christmas special, the first episode, Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, the second episode, and then the second season, and then the third season, they make this absolutely classic episode. NBC should still be building entire nights around Christmas community specials, and they didn't do that for some reason. And in our household, I mean, that's just a bedrock Christmas ritual, watching community Christmas episodes. Magical stuff.
To that point, and I think this is something that stood out to me. NBC made the same mistake with Hannibal, which is another brilliant show, and not, but it's not just NBC. I forget what network it was on. Well, yeah, Fox with Arrested Development, X, which was FX or whatever FX is, did with Justified, and that is they sold the streaming rights to dumb places. So like Justified, Hannibal, and Community all originally were on Amazon Prime when no one was watching Amazon Prime. And I feel like not being on Netflix is what kind of stifled the growth of those shows early on, when people started binging like Friends and The Office and Parks and Rec. You know, I think it's literally just that they were on something other than Netflix, and that's why they didn't get the groundswell that some of the other shows, the other comparable shows, do. But that's just my standing theory.
And NBC Universal are also the Scrooges that managed to find a way to squeeze It's a Wonderful Life out of the Christmas conversation, because it used to be everywhere. It used to be on all the time. Local PBS stations would show it 2-3 times in a row during the Christmas season. You couldn't avoid it. It was great. It was a reliable Christmas miracle. And then when Universal figured out exactly what a precious property it was, they throttled it and they locked it down. And now it's only on once on NBC, one time a year, one big night, and they stretch it out to 3 hours with commercials. And by making it a Christmas commodity and a Christmas destination, they ruined it. They killed it.
Yeah.
So NBC Universal, boo.
True Scrooges. But that you just reminded me with It's a Wonderful Life, and I can't believe I forgot to mention it. Also, the tag for the production company at the end of My So-Called Life is a It's a Wonderful Life quote, clip, and dance by the light of the moon. Exactly. And it makes an appearance in that episode.
I was just going to point that out to you, yes. As well as Mr. Magoo.
Yes. All right, so that was my number 3. Dave, what's your number 3?
2015, season 3, episode 3, original cast album from the show Documentary Now. The brilliant, consistently brilliant, amazingly spot-on style parody show that has fake documentaries or real documentaries about fake things. I don't know. You lose track. Original cast album Co-op is about a 70s Broadway cast recording the soundtrack album to a doomed Broadway show that happens to take place at Christmas. So as such, it has songs that are not necessarily about the Christmas of it all, but about the things that happen around Christmas. Christmas tipping, being at a Christmas party, maybe doing a little bit too much cocaine on a Christmas party, that kind of thing. You know, the heartwarming, real Christmas tropes that you really experience in life, or so I hear.
The documentary now to me is the craziest thing that has ever existed because of how hyper specific what they spoof is. That like 98% of the people who watch things have no idea the original piece. But for that 2%, for the guys like us, it is like a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, this one just absolutely nails the cheesy 1970s. At that point, it was the peak Broadway, a certain kind of very pedestrian, unmagical, obvious type of musical with a lot of very obvious type lyrics, but brilliantly so.
I've seen episodes of documentary now, but to your point, like I do not feel qualified to watch it on a continuing basis because I just do not get all the references. So I tap out. I'm like, I am not smart enough. I do not have the background to watch this 1 hour comedy show.
That's the other thing. Way. Yeah, that's
and a big presence on this one is John Mulaney again. He has, if you pay attention to his career, he has his hands in a lot of great musical things, like the Sack Lunch Bunch,
which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. James, your number 2 was My So-Called Life, which I stole.
My number 2 is My So-Called Life. You stole my thunder. Thank you very much. But here, I'll just throw in a little anecdote I meant to include. So I believe it's on Apple Plus TV or whatever they call it. There's a documentary about LGBTQIA plus representation in film throughout the years. And one of the people they talk to is Wilson Cruz, who portrays Ricky in My So-Called Life. And he talks about how portraying a gay teen character on TV in the 90s was groundbreaking.
Yeah, that just wasn't done.
Yeah. And again, like in the episode, it's heavily implied that Ricky was beat up and kicked out by his dad because he's gay, but they never come out and say that. But Wilson Cruz talks about how that mirrored his own experience. He had been kicked out of his house by his father when he was a teenager because of his sexual orientation. And he never spoke to his father for many years until after his father watched that episode of the show and finally reached out to Wilson to heal that bond between the two of them. So that episode really reflected some of the actor's life and had a real effect on his relationship by portraying what he went through with his father. And I just thought that was a neat little anecdote.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that was one of the things I talked about when I was on Single Season Record, which is like to have a gay character not be a stereotypical gay character at that time was so enormously huge. Like it almost, as what was I? 16 around then, 15, 16, something like that. I had never experienced anything like that because like any kind of reference I had was always through television, some flamboyantly gay, Jack and Will and Grace type character. And to have a character that not only was gay, but at no point is it really defined that he's gay until the finale is the first time he actually out loud says that he's gay. And obviously there's the through line of his infatuation with the character of Corey and stuff like that, but at no point do they like explicitly say it. It's always alluded to. It's always like, even Graham and Patty in their conversations are like, I think that boy just makes you uncomfortable, stuff like that. Which is incredibly groundbreaking at that time, and you don't see it again for another, 10 years or something like that in television.
Yeah, it's one of the first, if not the first, primetime shows to have a character just out there as a kid who is gay, and that's fine.
It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome, and definitely still, the themes that they touch upon there are sadly still, prevalent and resonant. So, great show.
Hey, your number 2.
My number 2, December 16th, 1987. This came on ABC. and it's available on YouTube. I think there's a home video release of it, but it is without a doubt to me the Avengers Endgame of Muppet properties. It's a Muppet Family Christmas. This blew my mind.
Christmas Carol?
Not Christmas Carol. As a matter of fact, I recently made a post that I love this more than Muppets Christmas Carol, and people got mad at me about it. But this is Christmas to me. This is everyone coming together, everyone spending time together. The plot behind it is they're going to visit Fozzie's mom, but Fozzie's mom is trying to go to Malibu for Christmas to hang out.
Chewbacca.
Like Chewbacca. That's exactly right. Maybe that's the other theme between what I like in a good Christmas thing. But Fozzie's mom has rented out her house to Doc and Sprocket from Fraggle Rock. The Sesame Street gang shows up. There's this There's this incredibly brilliant line where Bert and Ernie are meeting Doc and Sprocket, and they're talking, and they start going off about letters and stuff like that. And Doc says something like, "I don't understand what's going on here." And Bert goes, "Oh, this is just small talk where we're from." Like, it's just, there's this like just brilliant comedy throughout it. There's a Muppet Babies spot in there. It's literally all of the Henson properties in one. And like I said, this is Endgame to me, man. This is what it was all building up towards. This is what we wanted. We wanted all of our Muppets together. You got Fraggles in there. There's a whole Fraggle scene. But it's absolutely brilliant. And definitely one of my favorite, if not for my number one, would be my favorite Christmas thing of all time, because it just makes me feel so incredibly warm.
That just made my list of things to do today.
Check it out, man. It's awesome. What's your number two?
My number two is A Very Murray Christmas, 2015. Yes. Bill Murray's absolutely magical Christmas special. Bill Murray, a character who is a slightly heightened version of himself, is slated to put on an all-star live Christmas show. As he says, a couple decades before in the movie Scrooge, what kind of rat bastard would schedule a live Christmas show? And he's doing it. And then things go awry. And Bill Murray, who was positioned in somewhat miserably positioned to be in a miserly position where he would profit off of Christmas, actually winds up making it happen for a whole hotel full of people who are stranded there, which is one of those setups that I just absolutely love. In my world, my ideal party, and you guys can testify to this, it's happened. My ideal Christmas party would not just be a party, but it's when you have something to actually do on top of that party. You know, I always think about that party that we spent playing Dragon's Lair. We were playing Dragon's Lair on PlayStation before the party started. And then we were getting right into it.
Oh, I remember.
And then we just kept playing because we were making progress, and we kept playing Dragon's Lair. And next thing you know, we beat the game, and we look up and it's 4 hours later and the party's over and nobody's around us. So I love a party where you have something to do. I mean, my personal ideal Christmas party would be something where I order 3 fingers of whiskey, and then I set it beside me, and then I start talking to my friends, and we plan a heist, or we plan a media property or a TV special. And next thing you know, it's 2:00 in the morning and everybody's gone, but we've accomplished something. And to me, the Bill Murray Christmas special is kind of that. You know, he makes Christmas happen for some other people. It features a strategically truncated version of Fairy Tale of New York. It has a lot of great Christmas moments. Director Sofia Coppola, one of my favorite directors. She's amazing. She always does good work. They perform some Christmas archaeology and find a few obscure songs and dust them off and shine them up and bring them out. It's real Christmas magic. I love that show.
Yeah, if you're into Bill Murray, and particularly the latter day Bill Murray persona, this is for you. It is absolute Christmas magic. It really nails the melancholy of the season. It nails the friendship of the season. It's got a lot of goofiness to it, especially in the last 10, 15 minutes. Has an incredible version of Santa Claus Once in Lovin' featuring George Clooney. at the end.
Star-studded show.
Has Jenny Lewis, has Miley Cyrus. It is well worth 45 minutes of your time. It is not a long watch.
This one makes me cry. I'm not going to lie. In a good way.
I will remedy it this season. As a matter of fact, maybe even tonight, I will finally dig in.
I think the year it came out, we were watching it, and my wife is like, "So this song is going to make your Christmas list this year, right?" I was like, "Oh yeah." She was like, "This song, yeah, all of it."
Have we had the conversation that I feel like Bill Murray ruined a generation of men, in that we can not genuinely like anything ever again? Like everything has to be sarcastic due to specifically Peter Venkman, because of growing up with that being such a dominant that, and also by side note, Harrison Ford in both Star Wars and Indiana Jones, that we're a generation of people who are too cool for everything. That.
I just watched Empire Strikes Back the other night for no real reason, and damn, Harrison Ford was smooth, man. He was just one of the coolest guys to ever walk the planet.
We talked about this offline a few weeks ago, but I have found that I grew up to be incredibly cynical, and at a certain point, that prevented me from enjoying new things. Because every new thing that came along, I was like, I couldn't possibly be any good. No way. And I stopped and looked back on the last 20 years of my life and realized that there's probably some good stuff out there that I missed. So not really a New Year's resolution, but something I've been working on for the past couple months and going to work into in the future is just exploring new things and new media that maybe I skipped over or maybe want to give a chance. And I've already found some good stuff out there. So, hey.
I've been doing something very similar, and that's actually kind of why this exists, because I've been such a hater for a strong period of my life that I wanted to be a liker of things, and that's where this came from. And the first thing that one of the most recent things that I kind of hated sight unseen for a very long time that I actually now very much enjoy is the Postal Service. Speaking of Jenny Lewis, because it just missed me completely. It was during a period of time when that's not even close to anything I wanted to listen to. And then I just saw the Death Cab Postal Service tour this past swing through Philadelphia. And I was like, oh, I hated this for no reason. That's
pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good band. So I've caught up to 20 years or 25 years or however long ago we are.
There you go. We're good for the rest of our lives.
That's right.
Shot. We're good.
That's right. James, what's your number one Christmas TV special or show?
Drum roll, please. My number one all-time Christmas TV episode is the Doctor Who 2010 Christmas special, A Christmas Carol. Doctor Who has always been a series I've liked the concept more than the actual execution of, but this one managed to line up exactly where my personal expectations with the execution is, and it is fantastic. The episode opens with the Doctor's companion, Amy Pond, on a cruise starliner that is about to crash on a planet where the weather is controlled by a bitter, rich, miserable old man, Karzan Sardik. The starliner can't land unless Sardik allows the ship to navigate its way through the clouds, covering the Victorian England-like surface, because there is already a surplus population on the planet. And if the ship crashes, hey, it's not going to crash on his house. So enter the Doctor, in this era played by Matt Smith, who pleads with Sardik to save the people on the ship and makes an appeal to his good nature, only to discover that he doesn't have one. The Doctor, however, sensing a weakness, hurtles back in time to the many... Shut up, Siri. Hurtles back in time to the many Christmas Eves of Sardik's youth and young adulthood, and with the help of a mysterious woman frozen in ice, shows Sardik the love and companionship he never experienced, only to discover that ultimately it may not matter and that nothing has changed. Like I said, always had an idea of what Doctor Who should be. This is it. It is all at once funny, adventurous, geeky, and incredibly sad. And as I said earlier, if you are not reduced to tears by the end of this episode, then your heart is colder than Tarzan's Sardix.
How beautiful is it that you bookended your choices with Christmas Carol parables?
It's a trope that works and is highly adaptable. And if you do it the right way, man, you can knock it out of the park every time.
Christmas Carol is the genesis of Christmas as we know it.
It's true. You mentioned the ideal of Doctor Who. Do you have a doctor that to you is what the doctor should be?
Not really. Like I said, Matt Smith plays him in that episode, and at least his portrayal in that episode lines up the way I always thought of Doctor Who as this crazy, funny, goofy guy who runs around saying crazy, funny, goofy things.
With the sonic screwdriver.
Yeah. And if you look back on the last 60 years of Doctor Who, that is not always who he is. You know, Doctor Who is a British TV series of a certain era, and it can be very, very, very dry, not in like a good Monty Python kind of way. And again, if it floats your boat, that is absolutely perfect. Nothing against you. You are right. I am wrong. But again, I always grew up kind of having this, you know, I never had access to the PBS stations that would show Doctor Who. So I would read the novelizations and I would kind of hear about stuff secondhand. And I'd be like, oh, a time traveling doctor like guy who has adventures in space. That sounds awesome. And then when I would see an episode, I'd be like, ooh, is that it?
Yeah. I'm a Tom Baker guy. And it's mostly because of, like you said, like watch it, like anytime there was like a PBS member drive or something like that, and they would do like marathons. That's the idea of Who to me. And then when they did the reboot with Eccleston, I was like, all right, I can get into this. Like, I really liked Eccleston. And then he was gone in like a few episodes. And I have a weird, back to that hater thing. I have a weird thing about David Tennant and Matt Smith that like, they're just a little too in on the joke for me. That I could never really get into them because of that. And then I stopped watching the show. So
yeah, like after this Christmas episode aired, you know, I tried giving the show itself another shot. I tried watching like the follow-up Christmas episode the next year, and it was lightning in a bottle. They couldn't recapture it. It is truly a very special episode of TV.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Good stuff. My number one. All right. So I said the Star Wars Holiday Special was like a fever dream, like just a manic clusterfuck of a special. This one is a manic clusterfuck that works, and it's built in, it's baked in, it's a feature, not a bug, and that is Pee-wee's Playhouse Christmas Special from 1988. It is absolutely phenomenal. It is a perfect showcase, not just for Christmas, but a perfect showcase of how brilliant Paul Reubens was as a creator and as Pee Wee Herman. It has so many people in it.
So much good stuff.
That make no sense. It makes no sense why Magic Johnson, Grace Jones, Dinah Shore, which is such a reference that did not exist, that did not play in '88, but he's still making it. You know, you got the Del Rubio triplets, you got Joan Rivers, Little Richard, Zsa Zsa, you got Charo, you got Oprah.
I love that trope of Christmas specials, as I alluded to earlier. Like everybody's hanging out, you open up the door, either literally or figuratively, with a TV. Oh, look who's here. Charo.
That's right. And none of it relates. It's all just absolutely crazy. And everybody brings Pee-wee a fruitcake, which he hates. But one of the shining moments to me is Katie Lang is in this and is having more fun than I have ever seen Katie Lang have in her life, or maybe anybody have in their life. She is just so happy to be on this show, and it's absolutely incredible. And of course, I gotta mention that it's gonna hit just a little differently this year without Paul being on this planet. But
is it still on Netflix?
It might be. I bought it off of Apple years ago because that's how obsessed I am with this.
Buying content now.
This is easily my favorite thing of possibly not just Christmas, but just of all time. It's so much joy and it's so much fun and it's everything I want in the holiday season. And it's that found family again because Pee-wee is surrounded by his friends and his loved ones, and also Frankie and Annette.
The internet is telling me that the Pee-wee Herman Show is available on Max for streaming.
Oh, great. Stupid Zaslav.
Nice. So, hey, my number one, as I said, was Community's regional holiday music. I just want to make a couple further notes about that. I'll keep it short. Again, with NBC, Universal, Sony, whoever mistreating that property, the music from it is not officially available as a soundtrack album, which is just criminal. I maybe know a guy who ripped versions of it and painstakingly edited all the sound levels and intros and outros, but that's neither here nor there. But it really works as music too. And also a quick note about that. At the very beginning of it, there's a scene with the Glee Club, not the community people, but the Greendale Community Glee Club, features a little small role with Jeff Hiller, who you would later come to know as Joel in the HBO Max series or the HBO series Somebody Somewhere, which is a really different kind of TV show that I love. So it's neat to go back like 10 years and see that guy pop up in something that you love already, Jeff Hiller.
That's crazy. I'll have to shout this out. James, we have a former classmate and friend who was on an episode of Community, Tony Venturella.
Yep. Oh, okay. Well, he's good too.
Yeah. That's great. This was a lot of fun. These are our top fives. As I said, I'll have them all listed. I'll have links to whatever I can and whatnot. Gentlemen, anything you want to promote or throw out there or add on or anything?
I made a whole list of Christmas specials that did not make the cut. First episode of 6 Feet Under is technically a Christmas episode. Very good. Quantum Leap had another Christmas Carol trope for their Christmas episode. That was very good.
6 Feet Under just hit Netflix.
Yes. We talked about the Star Wars Holiday Special, and we talked a little bit. Dave talked about the loss of the Christmas Holiday Special. Where people just stop in and on Netflix there's the Johnny Cash Show Christmas episodes that are out there. You can check those out. I mentioned it last year on the Christmas music podcast we did. Casey Musgraves on Amazon has a completely inconsequential yet absolutely delightful Christmas episode on Amazon Prime that falls exactly within those parameters. So Stephen Colbert has one from maybe 2011, 2012 that has a whole bunch of left field guests who literally show up at the door like Toby Keith. So check those out. Yeah.
I love it. Dave, what you got?
Man, just so much good stuff out there. I haven't watched it yet. I think it is, it's Apple TV has the team owner from Ted Lasso hosts her own Christmas extravaganza musical. And as you know, she can sing quite well. So I'm looking forward to being able to sit down and watch that. It's something else I also rediscovered. We watched this week, me and the family. Shrek the Halls from 2007 is something that was very much critically dismissed at the time. People said, oh, it's really obvious, throwaway Christmas stuff, obvious jokes. It has aged incredibly well, and I think it's worth dusting off, especially if you haven't watched any Shrek lately. Shrek, once again, it's another one of those shows where he doesn't know Christmas, and Shrek, now that he has a family, is faced with the daunting chore of providing a perfect family for his Christmas, or a perfect Christmas for his family.
Sounds awesome.
One more thing I'll throw out, the Darth Vader Yule log on YouTube. Look it up.
Is it just Darth Vader's funeral pyre?
Look it up.
Okay. That's awesome. I love it. Gentlemen, thank you as always for doing this. If anybody wants to find more about you, how can they track you down?
James Ferris, Massive Media. If you have some multimedia needs, James will take care of you. He knows what he's talking about.
There you go. Otherwise, I am a ghost on social media these days. No social media, no problems.
Sounds good.
I know that they're not on social media either, but we should plug your kids. They're hilarious.
They are.
Hey,
They're out doing Christmas stuff with their mom right now.
I have a podcast about Slayer. If you like Slayer, if you like heavy metal, check it out. Patreon.com/Slayer book. If you're shopping on Amazon, a couple things I want to call to your attention. Just published a book with our now mutual friend, Nate, Brian Lynch. Great dude. He
Just got it last night.
it's good stuff. We just published a book together called Sixth Grade Superstar. It is an illustrated youth novel, easy to read, about 28,000 words, chapter book, over 200 images, written and drawn by Brian Lynch, who you might know as the screenwriter of the Minions movies, Big Helium Dog, if you are a Kevin Smith person, as we are. Really good stuff. I'm so honored to be a small part of that and to help get it out into the world. Check that out. And I have a book called Suburban Metal Dad Compendium 2, Christmas Sevenfold, that compiles 7 years worth of Christmas comic strips. It's priced to be a stocking stuffer, but it's one of those you really want to get before Christmas to help set the Christmas mood for you. And if you want something that doesn't cost any money, you want it free, I'll send you a link to my annual mix of non-traditional, non-bullshit holiday tunes, Christmas and otherwise. This year's is DX Miss 29, White Snow in the Hour of Christmas.
Awesome.
Nice.
And I will back up. The Sixth Grade Superstar is absolutely beautiful and very heartfelt, and plays into our theme of found family.
Oh, look at that.
And musicals.
And musicals.
Nate,
That's
where
right.
can we hear you talk more about My So-Called Life?
Well, the Single Season Record podcast, we actually, have finished recording everything, but they're only up to So-Called Angels is the one that just aired this week. But I think by the time this airs, they will be on whatever the next episode is. But you can find me on episode 17, The Weekend, which will be coming up. And on they did an episode 20, even though there are only 19 episodes of the show. They did an episode 20 that was just kind of like to recap and touch. And I make an appearance on that. And right now existing is I'm on episode 11, The Life of Brian. I literally shot called the two episodes that I wanted to be on, which are my favorites, which is The Life of Brian and Weekend. Life of Brian is the episode completely from the perspective of Brian Krakow, and Weekend is the one where Rayanne Graff accidentally handcuffs herself to the bed, and it's almost like a bottle episode while Patty and Graham go away to a B&B with Graham's brother Neil and his new girlfriend. So if you're into My So-Called Life, definitely check out the Single Season Record podcast. They do some good work over there. I did another one with them earlier in the year where we watched a one season thing, which was the 1984, I think, Graffiti Rock, which was essentially like American Bandstand, but for hip hop. And has a young Vincent Gallo in there and Debbie Mazars in there as dancers.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's good.
The show is incredible. There's an awesome battle between the Treacherous Three versus Run DMC in there that you want to check out. Which
include a link to that if you can.
I will. It's I had never heard about it, and they sent it to me. Brian Strang, one of the hosts, sent it to me, and he was like, "You've obviously heard of this," and I was like, "I've never seen this in my life." I was like, "Let me watch this and let's talk," because it's so much fun. Essentially, it was a show that they were trying to put in markets to kind of break hip hop to kids is essentially what they wanted. It was aimed at like 12-year-olds. So there's things like, this is a DJ. This is what he's doing. It's called scratching, which is actually a sample in a Beastie Boys song. They sample Graffiti Rock.
I do know that special. Yeah.
So yeah, check that out.
Hip hop, it's going to be big, kids.
That's right.
You
And like
heard
I
it here first.
And like I said, December 23rd, 'twas the Jawn Before Christmas 4. Got some special guests coming out to join us, and it's going to be an awesome live stream, 8 p.m. on Facebook, and if I can figure it out, YouTube. If I can figure out how to cross-platform stream, which I haven't been able to do yet, but maybe someday. But definitely on Facebook.
How to do that. Talk to me.
You should talk to James Ferris at Massive Media.
James, help me out. Cool. All right. So then, yeah, hopefully that'll be cross-platform, and we'll do
Merry Christmas, all.
Yeah, man.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for having us, Nate.
Anytime. My thanks again to DX and James for joining me on the show this week. DX's Suburban Metal Dad Compendium 2 Christmas Sevenfold is available now. And also available now, Brian Lynch's 6th Grade Superstar, both of those out on DX's 6623 press. You can find both of those on Amazon, and, of course, links are, as always, here in the show notes. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. Say it with me, wherever you get your podcasts from. And y'all, it is never too late to get yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout Merit Badge for citizenship in the world just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for the link tree with links to articles, merchandise, and all of the previous episodes of this podcast, guest appearances on other podcasts, and more. And while you're there, please be sure to sign up on our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight into your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter X at Yo That's My Jawn, and search Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out, and touch some Jawn. Well, I hope that was as much fun for y'all as it was for me. Be sure to let us know in the comments your favorite TV episodes during the holiday season. And I hope to see you guys in the comments tomorrow night during the Your Next Favorite Band live stream. Blue skies. Until next time, everybody.
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be.
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Natalie Runkle, and the incredibly brilliant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com. Or you can leave an audio message for us and possibly hear yourself on a future episode by visiting anchor.fm/ytmj/message. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn.